Hey guys, how's it going? It's Kara here with another Guardian Tales video. And this video is all going to be about Lifeguard Yuze here. Mainly, we're going to answer the question, is she worth pulling for? But also, I'm going to go over her kit, talk about some potential scenarios where she could be useful, really just break down my thoughts on the character right before she comes available here in a few days after the patch goes live. Before we get in the video, if we can get a like on this video, that'd be awesome. I do want to say big thank you to you guys for how supportive you guys been in the last few videos. I was hoping that we could keep that same energy. I want to set the like goal at 350 likes for this video. Let's see if we can break that goal. That'd be awesome. Also, if you're looking for more Guardian Tales content, be sure to subscribe to the channel. You guys have been so supportive, so I want to thank all the people that have recently subscribed to this channel, as well as all potential new viewers here. If you're looking for Guardian Tales content, please consider subscribing. So with all that out of the way, let's get into the video here. So the first thing we got here, let's check out her stats. Two-handed sword character. Unfortunately, her stats are not fantastic. We got 845 attack. We have 172 base defense. On a character like this, I'm not a big fan of it, especially with her kit having so many modifiers for defense. Having a below 200 defense for me is a little disappointing. Like even Lucy has more defense than this character, and for a character that's right up in your face, I really feel like her base defense is going to let her down significantly. She would be actually a really big problem in my opinion if she had like 220, 230 base defense. Then all the modifiers she gets later, as we'll talk about, would really help her. And then also like other characters are in like the 900 range for base attacks. Just kind of having subpar stats in my opinion already is kind of disappointing for a character like this. I feel like characters that are up in your face, closer, need to have a little bit better stats, because a lot of range characters have so much benefit of being so far away. The stats matter more for these characters is what I'm trying to say. Okay, so then we got normal attack, spins a two-handed sword to inflict damage to enemies, reduces damage enemies defense by 20% for 5 seconds. So this is really important. I really like characters that have reduced defense on their basics, especially not tied to their exclusive weapon. I'm glad that they keep switching this around. I was really getting worried there for a second that this game was going to get a little greedy, where they were putting them all onto the exclusive weapon. I think it's good for them. It's a good, ethical decision for them to not always do that. Like for example, Beth, they had all of her effects, essentially what makes the character her exclusive weapon, and then Beth is just, along for the ride. And Nari, for example, is a character that has defense just on the normal attack. And I really like that they're keeping that trend, that it's still a possibility, because I can see them getting, potentially greedy if they keep doing this only on the exclusive weapon. And what's also cool about this is we'll get to later in the video, just how versatile she is as a character because of this. And I just really like that they're building it, baking into the kit of the character, not the exclusive weapon, which is good. And because it's such a powerful effect that if you're limited to just the exclusive weapon, it'd be a big bummer in my opinion. And then next we have chain skill down to airborne. I guess I would prefer down to airborne versus down to injured. I still like, even if you're throwing in range characters on the team, even though she is a melee character, I guess that's fine. Follow up is a little neutered. You're not doing the extra 50%. If you went from something at like injured to downed, for example, you'd be doing a ton of damage in a PvP environment if you actually hit your chain skills and CC'd them. I think it's a fine chain skill. Applies shock to the enemy's heart and deal 350% of DPS damage. So solid chain skill, does a decent amount of damage there, but nothing really to write home about. On the weapon skill, she actually has something, not on the chain skill, but on her actual, weapon skill. Not much to say about the chain skill. Then we got the special ability here, Endurance. When using Aqua Swirl, increases defense by 30%. Continuous use of Aqua Swirl increases attack speed and movement speed by a maximum of 30%. This effect only applies when using Aqua Whirl. It's Aqua Whirl, not Aqua Swirl. This is where the base stats really let her down. Only having 172 base defense is a really big bummer for a character like this that is basing so much of her kit on her stats here. So you have the 30% defense. That's not going to do much. It's just going to put her in the range of a normal tanky character on base defense, in my opinion. And then her attack speed, 30%. Yes, she'll do decent damage, but that's when she ramps up on her auto attack. I think it's fun. She definitely looks like a fun character to play because of this and how her mechanics work with just how her auto attack is like a Beyblade, and then she gets a special ability when she starts going. So I think it's cool. It's an interesting design, but I think they could have done a little better job of making her viable if they shored up the stats. Like, let's just kind of end it out with party skill buff of weapon skill regen speed by 30%. I think this is a unique passive that has been getting play because of Future Night, and there's a lot of unique things you can do with weapon skill regen speed in any game mode's content, and it's just such a rare passive on a character that's unique. like a unique 3-star character. So we haven't gotten too much of it because it's at the moment only a forced Future Knight's the only one that could do it. So having another option here, especially luckily it's a melee option, so there's actually, you know, we have the melee version, we have the range version of this party skill, so I think there's a lot of potential here, but unfortunately based on the usage cases in the Korean server, it's not really working out too well at the moment, but we'll talk about where I think she could actually be useful here soon. So overall, I think it's a fun kit to play with, but nothing too crazy so far, nothing like game changing. If anything, I would say she's just an okay character at this point, but let's look at her weapon skill. Okay, so now we got our weapon skill here. We got 20% defense, potentially 20% HP, 20% skill damage. Increases the range of Aqua Whirl by 30%, increases attack of all allies within the safe zone by 30% for 5 seconds. So the safe zone, I thought when I first saw this, the safe zone was her actually spinning herself. Like anyone in that will also increase their attack, but it's actually tied to her weapon skill, which is jumps towards the target to inflict damage and creates a safe zone, putting enemies in a down state. So you got to be pretty close to it. She does the weapon skill. People get a 30% attack buff. Me personally, I don't like that mechanic at all. On a character like this, I think it would be a lot better if it actually just gave out the 30% attack buff. I don't think that would be busted, and it would actually open her up to a lot more teams where you have your ranged characters in the back. She does that, and because it's also tied to her weapon skills, so that's a big commitment in a lot of these scenarios where, like, you know, Coliseum, like imagine you're taking off Future Princess for her, or in Orbital Lift or Camazone, all those scenarios, putting her as the main unit should actually reward the entire team, because there's at the moment only very few characters ever even get considered for that choice. Essentially Future Princess is the main one. You got Arabelle, you got sometimes Mayriel. I mean, like, there's really not that many characters that get chosen for that. So for them to also like make it so restrictive on the buff here is a big bummer to me. And just looking at this exclusive weapon, when I was looking at this is probably, in my opinion, you know, let me know down in the comments below what you guys think about this, but I think this is one of the worst exclusive weapons. It doesn't actually boost her that much, in my opinion. If you're using her purely for PvP purposes, obviously you're going to need this weapon, because I think the increased range of Aqua Whirl probably matters, but the 30% attack buff on all allies is almost useless. It's like essentially all this weapon is increases the range of Aqua Whirl by 30%. Like, that's really all it does, and then also has the unique weapon skill that you wouldn't get if you were using a replacement weapon. But for a character like this, most of her kit is tied to the actual character, and very few things that are actually realistically usable are tied to the exclusive weapon. So it's one of the most disappointing exclusive weapons, in my opinion. It doesn't do much for the kit, but at the same time, because of how this character is designed, I think it really opens up a lot of potential for her using a ton of different weapons, whether she be the main unit or she be a side unit in a character for like raiding and stuff. She can actually be splashed in a ton of teams because she has the 20% defense reduction. That's my opinion on the exclusive weapon. So who's this character for? I think she is a character that is good for very early game and for very late game accounts. For a lot of people, probably if you skip her, not going to be the end of the world, in my opinion. I think for the majority of the player base, she's a
skip. But you know what, skip?
Why I think she's good for early game, because she has a ton of AoE. Also, I think she's good for co-op. I just want to throw that out there. I don't want to get into it too much. Co-op is not that big a part of content in the game, but I don't really see her being useful in Camazone, in Orbital Lift, in Coliseum, and then I think she has very niche cases in Arena, and you can see in the usage that in Korea that it's totally justifying what I'm saying here. If you're using her in Arena as a niche case, she shouldn't be one of your main characters. She's a character that I would think people would pull because, you know, like, they're spending on the game, or they're really advanced in the game. They've been playing for a while. They want the character. They think she's fun. They're going to try her out in Arena, probably put her in the training room for a bit, and then, you know, if they like her, sure, they could keep her in there, but I can see her being like a thing people pull for. They try her out, realize that she's okay, and then probably take her out of the training room, and then maybe down the line people figure out some kind of crazy thing that they could do with her. She doesn't have much viability currently in the game, and so that's why I think she's a skip. But going back to what I was saying, I think early game she's probably really good because doesn't really rely on her exclusive weapon. She gives herself a ton of stats. She's reducing defense, and you can essentially use whatever weapon you want, whatever you pull. So if you're a free-to-play player, this is the banner, you're just starting the game, I would say pull for this character. I think she's probably one of the most accessible characters you can get and just start with, and then have immediate results that's really going to carry you through a lot of content, because she just handles these waves of enemies so well. Then for the other person that would be pulling for this character, I would say super late game accounts that are looking for somewhat like interesting things to do with the raid. I think there's a lot of potential here for her as a raid character, and I just kind of wanted to go over some things about what I was thinking about her as a character here. So here, let me get all these out of the way. And I was just looking, because she's a two-handed character, obviously. So here, let's go to the book and some potential two-handed weapons. So like, I was thinking in a melee team, like there's a ton of different raiding options that I think she can really benefit from. There's a lot of fun things you can do, especially if she's a side character on your team. She's not the main character. So she's giving the main unit a lot of weapon skill regen speed, and then she's giving the team defense down, which is amazing. Like Nari has that and Grimmery have that, and they're both amazing raid characters. Imagine another character on the team that is doing that. Then, since it's not tied to her exclusive, you could put any type of weapon on here. You could bring her in a light team, like a light team during the Portrait Lady, like looking for, like, she's melee teams excel against her because she's stuck against the wall. So being able to bring a whole bunch of melee units, she actually might be one of the best like characters for that. And so you can have like her in a light two-hander. You can bring her in for in a basic team. Like there's so many options here. Maybe even a fire team would be good. There's a lot of melee fire teams that she could probably fit into and really help with the weapons coverage and speed on the main character there. But I think that's something to explore. That's definitely a lot of theory crafting involved there. I'm just trying to think of, this is totally first thoughts on here, that there's actually potential with the character, but it's for people that are super late game. Like characters like this are Lucy and Veronica are these kind of like late game characters that really benefit or excel in the raid environment. But for the majority of people, it's like, do I really recommend you pull for these characters? But even those characters have good PvP viability. So when I recommend those characters nowadays, especially Veronica in a very niche case where you need the weapons coverage and speed, and be sure to check out 2 Moons if you want to see that. When it comes to Lucy, I think she's actually a good range unit that also happens to have really good raid viability, whereas Yuze is not seen anywhere in the leaderboards for PvP, not seen anywhere in Coliseum, not going to be used in Camazone or Orbital Lift. It's just so niche that her exclusive weapons not even that great. So it's like, it's really hard for me to recommend this character. So I really think she's a skip, even though if you do pull for her, I think you're gonna have a lot of fun. I think she's a fun character, but from a viability standpoint, I don't think she's that good. All right, guys. Well, I'm gonna end the video here. Let me know in the comments below if you're gonna pull for her, and if you are gonna pull for her, let me know why. I'd really like to hear your guys' thoughts on this. I'm gonna pull for her because as a content creator, I want to always have, maybe my opinion is not 100% here. I'm gonna really try her out, and then I'll have an updated opinion on this. But this is my first thoughts. We've had a couple weeks on Korean server for them to figure out if she's going to be viable anywhere, but just this is my essential first take on the character right before the patch goes live, and then I'm going to pull for her, get an opinion after using her for a bit, and see if it still stands. So that's going to do it for me on this video, and with that, guys,